Diversity, equity, and inclusion, otherwise known as DEI. And just in case you missed it, with everything that's been happening with Dr. Claudine Gay, I've got a ton of videos on this. I'm sure you guys have watched a few of them. DEI has made its way back into the news, back into kind of the consciousness of America, at least here in the United States. If you're watching from another country, I'd love to hear your thoughts on DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion. Does it make sense? On the one hand, you've got Elon Musk, who recently on Twitter flat out said diversity, equity, and inclusion is just another form of racism. And then you have top, business icon, celebrity businessman, Mr. Mark Cuban, who pops in and says, oh, let me try to educate you, or allow me to help, which, by the way, was unsolicited. Nobody said, please help us. Kind of a gross way to start your tweet, as a matter of fact. Allow me to help you. Oh, will you, illustrious one? Oh, glorious one? Nothing like unsolicited advice to just grate you. I can tell you, as somebody who transitioned from higher education to now running his own business, and I think doing so much more good and giving so much more back and actually contributing in a way that is just better for me mentally, giving me more purpose, and actually just allowing me to solve people's problems a lot more clearer and more effectively. I remember getting email after email after email on this topic of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was just, we were being bombarded by it. It's kind of been something that has really aggressively hit the consciousness of not only higher education, but pretty much every institution that conducts any business, especially here in North America, in the United States of America. I'm not exactly sure how much those branches have reached out to the rest of the globe, which is why I'm really interested and curious. I know we've got a lot of Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Europe, South America. We got a lot of amazing viewers from all over the globe. Let me know in the comments, what are you guys facing? Is it something similar? I'd love to hear from you. But let me share a stat with you. This is a really, really important stat. So this has been in the works aggressively. There are companies who go out and train employees, that HR hires, that all these major American corporations, big, small, medium, large, you name it, will hire these diversity and inclusion speakers or firms. It's a billion-dollar industry, and they have made a killing over the last 5 to 6 years. And let's see how the results are. This is from WebMD Health Services. This was a survey conducted very recently, just in the past 18 months, and it states 62% of workers surveyed say diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging programs aren't effective. That's 62%. And nearly half, 46%, say the programs had failed them personally. I will tell you what I think about this, and I'll tell you what, my kind of whole take on this is at the end of this video, but, the data doesn't lie. And so then we come back to Dr. Claudine Gay. Everything that happened, all of the substantial evidentiary proof, a lot of people from a certain political affiliation, and a lot of people who benefited greatly from these diversity programs, benefited greatly from what, a lot of people might call another handout or another form of discrimination. I know Elon Musk would say that. Don't want to see this program go. They don't want to see diversity, DEI, dwindle or, pass away or go gently into the good night at all. And there's a really good reason for that. So you need to think about this. All of the evidence, all of the proof that Dr. Gay, which I don't even know, can we technically even call her a doctor? I'm not sure. There's so much mounting evidence, even more coming out after her resignation, which is really just a gentle slap on the wrist, because she is actually able to still retain her full-time tenured faculty position. And she's the head of a department which she earns an average salary of $900,000 a year for cheating. Not for allegations. These are not allegations. She got caught red-handed cheating and plagiarizing. Her entire academic career is one fraught with dubious question marks. So She's still able to earn. She's still able to use Harvard's name. She's still able to teach there. Nothing has really changed other than a change of title, even though in her resignation later, she really rants and raves that this was a political hit. This was a racial hit. They don't want to see black women succeed, which is just completely asinine. And so Mark Cuban and Elon Musk got into it on Twitter, and I just thought this was an interesting point of how this all kind of connects. And I'm also going to leave an amazing article that I found recently by not only Dr. Carol Swain, who's an amazing black scholar, a woman, female black scholar, but I'm also going to leave an article in the description of one Ayaan Hirsi Ali, called Claudine Gay and the Mafia of Mediocrity, and where she says this about DEI, which I think is so amazing. DEI is the programmatic implementation of an intolerant, progressive agenda that views the existing structures of government, education, media, and industry as deeply unjust. It presents these institutions in the light of hierarchical, intersectional model, which I don't know what that means. Doesn't mean anything really. It's just fancy academic talk. Model of the oppressors and the oppressed. The ultimate oppressor is white, male, and straight. Of course, blacks, women's, gays, and others are defined as their victims. To redress the past wrongs, DEI is supposed to design, this is really important, new structures of quote-unquote positive discrimination or affirmative action. So, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm just going to tell you straight up what I think of it. I don't ever want to accrue a position, okay? This is somebody who has a very, very diverse background, okay? I've got Middle Eastern immigrant parents. I've got Native American in me. I've got European blood in me. I'm kind of a mix of a lot of different backgrounds, heritages, and ethnicities. Technically, I guess you could say I'm white. I don't know. But I don't really identify as this or that. I'm just, the only thing that I care about is that my hard work, my blood, sweat, and tears, is something that stands for who I am. That's what I mean by meritocracy, and that's what I want my kids. I want my kids to earn their position based on merit. I don't want them to earn their position based on something that is 1,000,000,000% out of their control, such as skin tone, gender, where they, who their parents were. Those things are completely out of their control. I want them to earn their position based on the merit, the hard work that they committed and that they conducted. So, any kind of discrimination whatsoever, any kind of lens to look at when you're hiring somebody, when you're trying to check off some kind of a box as a corporate entity, when you're just trying to fill a role, fill a position, or fill any kind of slot based on race, whether it's, I don't even know what that means, positive discrimination or negative discrimination. I think all discrimination is wrong. I think any type of discrimination is completely against the principles and values that these supposed people, and they're using 1965, the Civil Rights Act. That's a completely different ball of wax. I urge you to read Dr. Carol Swain's article, which I'll leave a link in the description. It's completely a different, perpetuation and a different policy and a different kind of intention. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, to me, in my mind, is just another way of cheating the system. It's another form of discrimination wrapped in a prettier box, a much prettier box. And I just don't see how that DEI is anything positive. And we're seeing now that Dr. Claudine Gay, there's a lot of evidence that supports that Dr. Claudine Gay earned her position through affirmative action, that she was a diversity hire, and it completely backfired. It's completely decimated Harvard's reputation. This is one of the oldest institutions in the history of civilized man, the oldest university in the history of man. Maybe next to Oxford. I'm not sure about that. I think Oxford maybe came before Harvard, but it's one of the oldest. Their reputation has not been this soiled in its entire history. And there's all the evidence that points to that Dr. Claudine Gay, if she is a doctor, I kind of refrain from, or I'm hesitant apprehensive to call her a doctor. She was a diversity hire. She earned her position not through hard work. She earned her position because of DEI and because of these really oppressive, discriminatory, modern practices under the guise of inclusion. It's really exclusion. And so I would love to hear what your thoughts on this. I'm going to come up with a couple more videos on this topic because it's so interesting. Do you think Mark Cuban is right? I'll leave a link to his tweets in the description, as well as Elon Musk's reaction, which, is really, really interesting, because Elon says, what happened is that Cuban goes on this whole rant. Allow me to illuminate for you why I think DEI. And when you read it, I mean, Mark Cuban is a very smart dude. He's a very capable, successful, innovative business guy. He's very, very good at what he does. I have so much respect for him, but when he says these things, it makes me lose all respect, and his credibility goes out the door. I want to share something with you that's going to support what I'm about to say, but I have to say this really first. I felt like it was almost like it's the same thing with all these professors that are coming out in support of plagiarism and cheating and saying that this is an attack on women. It's a misogynistic, racially flared attack. It's none of these things. It's all based on merit. It's all based on merit. It's all based on the fact that when you hold a position of power, or any position for that matter, and you commit fraud, you should be held accountable. But when I see people like Mark say these long-winded, laborious, over-the-top, hyperbolic tweets that I just don't believe he believes a word of what he's saying, and I'm going to show you evidence that proves the exact contrary to what he's saying, it makes me think that, and I'm not a conspiratorial dude, but it makes me think that maybe there is some kind of a tribal mentality amongst the elite where they get together and, they have these strategies, or they have these sessions, these brainstorming sessions, and they just defend an idea at all costs, where they're just kind of holding the line of this ideology that they're trying to perpetuate. And no matter what, if the other side says it's a bad idea, they're going to defend it at all costs, even though they themselves know it's a terrible idea. So the irony and the hypocrisy is, they're drowning in it. I don't really think he believes this. But the funny thing is that Elon Musk retorted back, "Okay, cool. Does that mean that you're going to start having 5'4" Asian women on the Mavs? When are we going to get to see this?" And it turned into this huge lampoon almost, and it just spiraled out of control for Mark Cuban. It really didn't make him look good, and this doesn't make him look good either. This was in The Guardian, an article that just came out recently, claiming factually, with data to back it up, that the Dallas Mavericks, the team that Mark Cuban owns, is the least diverse NBA team in the history of the NBA. Check this out. In 2020, the NBA was 74.2% black and 16.9% white. It seems every decade the white NBA player becomes less relevant, yet one franchise has often kept the dream of mediocre white guys alive: the Dallas Mavericks. In 15 of the last 21 Mavs seasons, there were 3 or more white players on the 12-man active roster. In more than half of those 15 seasons, there were at least 4 white players, not to mention at least 2 starting white players. The Mavericks, in the literal sense, do not look like the rest of the league. So, Mark, you're taunting, advocating, staunch supporter of DEI, but your words don't match your actions. And when your words don't match your actions, that's a big blow to your credibility. I'm sorry. So I'd love to hear what you think. I personally think DEI is a travesty. I think any kind of discrimination should go, but I would love to hear from you. So I throw this in your court. Let me know in the comments. What is your experience with DEI? What are your thoughts on DEI? Do you think it should go? Do you think 2024 will be the year that people finally get rid of it? Or do you think that it should come back even stronger? It is here to stay. It has benefited you, your company, your organization, your life. Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you've made it this far, make sure you tap that thumbs up, subscribe. Check out these other videos here that I recently released that are doing really well about this whole controversy: DEI, Claudine Gay, Harvard University, higher education. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'd love to see you. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much.